When Andrew Wiggins was just 14 years old, he already stood at 6'6" and made headlines throughout the basketball community when he went up for a dunk, threw it down, and shattered the backboard. This moment burst Andrew Wiggins onto the national scene, and by the time the 2014 draft rolled around, the hype for Wiggins had become borderline out of hand. He was a Gatorade National Player of the Year, a Slam magazine cover athlete, a college All-American, and had been given the nickname Maple Jordan because some scouts really believed that Andrew could be Canada's version of Mike. Yup, guys, you heard that right. People thought Andrew Wiggins was going to be the Canadian Michael Jordan. That's what we're working with today. So what's up, guys? Mike here, and yes, in this video, we are going to discover what caused Andrew Wiggins to fall off so hard. But before we get into that, I do want to say I'm sorry for the lack of face cams recently. I had camera problems at first, and now I've been pretty sick recently. You don't want a face cam right now, trust me. They will be back next week if anyone cares. Regardless, let's jump into the video. When we go back and look at the early life of Andrew Wiggins, we find out that the man was born to be a basketball player. I say this because Andrew's mother was a silver medalist track and field sprinter for Canada, while his father was a 6'4" shooting guard who played 6 seasons in the NBA. So yeah, Andrew was born with 2 professional athletes as parents, and as we already know, the man would go on to become the #1 recruit in the nation and the #1 overall pick in the 2014 draft. So again, that of course led to his very promising first year in the league, where he was named the 2015 Rookie of the Year, and again, at this moment, everything seemed to point to Andrew Wiggins becoming the next NBA star. As I said before, the hype around Wiggins had gotten out of hand. If you want proof of this, well, let's just look back at an article written by Bill Simmons during Wiggins' rookie year. This article ranked every NBA player's trade value for the 2015 season, and in it, Bill Simmons ranked Andrew Wiggins 22nd, 1 place ahead of Paul George and just 1 place behind Giannis. This article really sums up people's thoughts about Andrew at the time. As Bill said, when he writes his next book, he was sure he was going to add a what if chapter about Wiggins, where he would write, quote, "What if new Cleveland GM LeBron James had just been patient and waited a few months to make sure Wiggins wasn't his short-term Scottie Pippen and long-term perimeter stud in waiting before flipping such a monster asset for Kevin Love." He would go on to say, "I love Wiggins, he's a sure thing." Now, of course, at this moment, these words seem insane, but that was really the feeling about Wiggins at the time. A lot of people believed that he was a sure thing. And the thing is, Andrew's 3rd season only seemed to reinforce this belief, as in the beginning of year 3, it already looked like everything was coming together for Wiggins. It looked like Andrew Wiggins was about to establish himself as an all-star for the next 10 to 12 years, because in that 2017 season, Wiggins began the year averaging 27.4 points per game on almost 50% shooting from the field, and he was making over 2 threes a night on 52% shooting from 3. Those, of course, are awesome numbers, and what was even more impressive was that in the 9th game of his 11-game run, the Timberwolves blew out the Lakers as Andrew Wiggins dropped 47 points on 14 of 21 shooting. This looked like his true coming out moment. This looked like a game we would point back to years later and say, those 47 points changed everything. And the thing is, sometimes when we look back at certain players' performances at a young age, we, or I mean I, can have a tendency to overhype them. But that is not what is happening here, because it seems like the entire league believed in Andrew Wiggins at this point. Karl Anthony Towns said, quote, "Andrew's on another level." Tom Thibodeau said, "I think he's just scratching the surface. I think he can do a lot more." And really, there was no reason to doubt Wiggins at all. The man, or should I say kid, was just 21 years old at the time and was already putting up historic scoring numbers. And sure, I do understand that this was only an 11-game stretch and that it was almost a guarantee that Wiggins would come down at some point, but Wiggins still finished the year averaging 23.5 points per game, and if we just take a look at the history of the league at the time, we find that Wiggins was just one of 13 players to average over 23 points per game at the age of 21. 13! That's a small list. And what's even more crazy is that his teammate, Karl-Anthony Towns, also joined Wiggins on that list in that exact season. However, unfortunately for Andrew Wiggins, this video is not a success story and instead is almost the complete opposite, because this season, as a 5-year NBA vet, Wiggins is only averaging 14.9 points per game on 38% shooting, and the worst part about Andrew's scoring numbers is that when we look at his overall game, scoring is the best thing that he can do. As a 6'8" ultra athletic small forward, Andrew only averages 3.7 rebounds per game, and even though he theoretically should be playing on one of the best teams in the West, the man only dishes out 2.3 assists a night. Overall, these numbers alone are the perfect way to show why Andrew has not fulfilled the giant expectations people once had. Because not only is he averaging almost the same exact stats as his rookie year, but the real reason why Andrew has been such a disappointment is that so far he has shown he is not a complete basketball player at all. That's how serious the decline of Andrew Wiggins has gotten. So of course, with this said, we have to ask the question, how did this happen? Well, to find the answer to that question, let's head into this year where we heard a lot about how Jimmy Butler was the reason that Andrew Wiggins was suffering. We heard that Jimmy was talking down to Wiggins, was calling him soft, was questioning his work ethic, you get the point. Because we heard these things, naturally, we made excuses for Andrew, as it seemed perfectly reasonable to chalk up his poor play to the fact that he was playing with a combination of both a diva and the worst teammate in the world. However, since the Jimmy Butler trade took place, this excuse has obviously proven not to be the reason why Wiggins has suffered. As in the 9 games since the Butler trade, the Timberwolves have actually won 7 out of those 9 games, but Andrew Wiggins has played absolutely horrible. Somehow his stats have gotten even worse. As in 33.1 minutes a night, Andrew has only averaged 12.9 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 2.7 assists, and he's shooting just 32% from the field. And of course, we have the ultimate example of just how bad Andrew Wiggins has gotten, as in a game against one of the worst teams in the league, the Chicago Bulls, and yes, it pains me to say that, Wiggins was benched for the 4th quarter after he scored 0 points, grabbed 1 rebound, and was given 1 very questionable assist while shooting 0 for 12 from the floor in the first 3 quarters. So at this point, again, we're back to a question that has to be asked. What really went wrong with Andrew Wiggins? What has caused him to go from a potential superstar to a bench player? Well, when we dive into the numbers, the answer to this is actually pretty simple. Because despite the fact that he was born with athleticism that most of us could only dream of, Andrew Wiggins does not use any of these God-given gifts to help himself on the basketball court. As I said before, the man does not help his team on defense, he rebounds very poorly for a small forward, and he does not create plays for his teammates. Those are all huge problems for a supposed franchise player that has a max contract, and they're all problems that make no sense on paper because of Andrew's athleticism. There is no good reason he shouldn't be a good defender in this league. There is definitely no reason at all he shouldn't be grabbing more rebounds, and it just makes no sense that his scoring just dropped off completely. However, with that said, while there's no good reason for these things, there is a clear explanation that's staring us right in the face. Jimmy Butler was right. Andrew Wiggins is just soft. It's that simple. The man does not have the mentality to play a physical game for 48 minutes a night. And unfortunately, that's only the first part of Wiggins' problem, as the second problem is probably even worse. Because Andrew Wiggins also has a very low basketball IQ. These two facts explain everything about him. He's not good on defense because he doesn't want to body up his man and doesn't have the defensive awareness to be a good help defender. He doesn't grab rebounds because he doesn't have the mindset to outmuscle his opponent in the paint, and he he also doesn't have the natural instinct to know where the ball is going off a miss. As for his scoring, the one thing he actually was doing well before Jimmy got there, again, we can see that the problem has nothing to do with Jimmy and has everything to do with Wiggins' decision making and mindset. As in the 2019 season so far, just wait for this because it's ridiculous. Andrew has taken 277 shot attempts, and a mind-blowing 116 of those attempts have been mid-range jumpers. Now, that would be fine if Wiggins was hitting those mid-range jumpers, but he hasn't. In fact, Andrew Wiggins is one of the worst mid-range jump shooters in the entire NBA, because somehow, despite the fact that half of his shots are mid-range jump shots, Wiggins shoots just 25% on mid-range jumpers. 25%. What is he doing? For whatever reason, one of the most athletic players in the league settles for mid-range jump shots time and time again and watches as those shots miss time and time again. So there we have it, guys. The mystery is pretty much solved in my opinion. Andrew Wiggins does have the tools to be one of the best players in the NBA, but he just doesn't have the mindset and he doesn't have the basketball IQ. And unfortunately for Timberwolves fans, I don't think that's really something you can teach. I mean, Wiggins is already in his 5th season and he's clearly regressing without any kind of injury. That is always a bad sign. I don't know. Personally, I'm not at all rooting for him to play poorly, but I just don't have a lot of faith. Again, sorry Minnesota fans, but if you did enjoy this video, I hope you subscribe. On this channel, I make videos like this. I do basketball conspiracies. I actually have a ton of new videos I've been planning out, I've been working on. There's gonna be a lot of content coming very soon, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a video. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting. You're the man, we all know it. And as always, have an awesome day and cue that music. And if the music's playing, if you're still here, that hopefully means I've done something right. So here are 2 other videos I think you wanna watch. They're on your screen right now. All you have to do is click them to watch. And again, have an awesome day and peace.